Good afternoon. Well, it's Saturday, and in my Thomas Jefferson weather report, I can tell you it's now 59 degrees, and I don't know if you can see the wind moving the trees. It's more dramatic here, of course. So we have wind today. It's pretty serious, and it's the kind of stuff that penetrates. So I'm wearing a little heavier jacket. Probably be too warm, but I wanted to cuddle myself and feel good inside of a jacket. So the weather is what it is, and we'll be seeing more color soon, and the leaves have started to fall, and so the season has changed. The principal story today, Saturday, is what's going on in Israel, and from time to time I've been involved with candidates who are going to fora to discuss their positions, and I was with Mark Green in New York when he wanted to run for Congress many years ago against a guy, Bill Green, and we were going to meet with a group that was Jewish, and Mark was Jewish, is still Jewish, and I asked how he was going to handle certain of the questions, and he was a little more relaxed in his view as compared to what they were going to say. So much so I said, perhaps we should skip this. Send an assistant or something. The issues are impossible. And it is the problem when you have religious states in charge. Now, the perspective that I had when younger was to study Henry VIII and scratch my head and wonder what he was going through when he's creating a new church. And it was so that he could declare marriages done when the Roman Catholic Church wouldn't do it, because at one time he was a defensor fidei, a defender of the faith, according to Rome. And so he started his own church, the Anglican Church, and then that rivaled the Roman Catholic Church, and so it became a political struggle. Well, I don't know how you compare these very difficult problems, but the Middle East has had a problem between various iterations of the Palestinians and the Jewish state created in, 1947, with the approval of Harry Truman. There are lots of reasons for all these things to go on, but the tensions have continued ever since. And recently, Hamas, H-A-M-A-S, has been very upset that they've been under an embargo for 16 years in the Gaza Strip, where Hamas occupies the Gaza Strip, and but they're concerned about the Israelis coming in and raiding, and they're upset about how women are treated, and they're upset about the temple, the Muslim temple that's in Jerusalem, being desecrated. I can't objectify what's true and what's not true. Of all the times I've ever thought of going to Israel, always something is broken out. And today, there was a big problem in that Hamas fired 150 missiles into Israel, killing people. The number changes by the hour because of the condition of identifying and locating and knowing what happened. And Netanyahu responded with an attack against the Gaza Strip, killing very many people as well. The UN General gave a statement this afternoon, basically saying a pox on both your houses. That is to say, stop this violence, both on the part of the Hamas and the Israelis. Now, I can't comment on the feeling someone has to be so religious and to be so connected to these issues. We have, as an American society, basically supported Israeli in every way we could, because it was a struggle from the beginning. Those who weren't prepared to accept a Jewish state, and from time to time we've had these outrageous situations. The Middle East has been a tinderbox for so long, And there seems to be no easy way out of it. And the politicians are not in a position to offer a solution. What you may have heard about is a two-state solution, but it's not clear how. There'd be the Palestinians on one hand and the Jews on the other, and there are very complicated proposals in the past. The most, I suppose, that we could ever expect is some sort of negotiation that, maybe without saying so, embraced peace rather than conflict and war. Because men, women, and children were at risk in both these assaults, both the one by Hamas and the one by the Israelis. Netanyahu has always been a strong warrior, and maybe that's what you need in that section of the world. He has not had the best relations with Biden, and they met only a week or so ago. But how much can we help? I heard Biden say that the equivalent of thoughts and prayers, and I wish we would erase that from our nonsensical, inchoate, unnecessary, airy-fairy statement when great crises confront us. Prayers don't do anything, because if prayers did something, they would have avoided this, because everybody in the Middle East is praying every day in temples, in the street, on their shawls. Everybody is praying, and it's not making a damn bit of difference. So let's forget that. Let's try to do something in the real world where people stop killing each other. Why anybody wants America to become a religious nation is beyond me when you can see the evidence of what that means. It means chaos and suffering and death over things people can't confirm. The Roman Catholic Church, and I have that indelible mark as I'm informed from the Baltimore Catechism since birth, is having a synod, S-Y-N-O-D, not S-I-N, sin, to discuss the teachings of the church. Now some people think, we know the teachings of the church. Are they changing? When the Pope speaks, he speaks ex cathedra sometimes on matters of faith and principle. So, but does that mean he's updating the teachings and the blessings with or without the various factions? And I try to go to a religion I've been associated with because it seems unfair of me to comment on another religion, which I understand somewhat, and to have them in dire, deathly danger because of their beliefs as compared to others. And are there wrongs on both sides? Well, you can't even say that, and I don't know it. But it is clear that a lot of people are dead this evening who need not have been killed. There had to be a way to avoid this death. But there's something wrong with humanity. We embrace death like it was a sport. You know, things are so bad, we're going to make them worse. That's what we do. So, how can America help? Because, I guess we normally would give funds, arms, advisors, human intel, a whole variety of things. Our nation is not in the best position to do this. We don't have a speaker in the House, so we can't pass legislation there until we figure that out. We have a spending bill by which we might authorize funds for Israel, but we can't pass that because we can't get agreement because we don't have a speaker. We have ability to transfer some funds, and we have already made devoted assistance to our ally, to Israel. So, we're in a quandary. It's the bull in the china shop approach to the world. And Israel has the most subtle detection equipment and intel network, the Mossad, and they had no inclination this was going to happen. It's amazing. On top of that, we're concerned. Will somebody else jump in? Will we have additional attacks? What about Egypt? What about Turkey? What about Qatar? Iran? Any of these, are they going to step forward? We've been reaching out and encouraging them not to do anything in the sense of escalating the situation. So by the time you hear this, given the electronic magnification that occurs from this walk to YouTube to you, situation could change several times. As I'm talking to you in the afternoon here, it's the night in Israel. And so, I don't know if that's good or bad. What will come with first light? What will come to ease the pain between now and then? I am of the view that we do what we can to help others find peace in these situations. But the one thing that is clear is there's a big difference between respecting someone's belief and someone taking that belief and warring with those who disagree. And some of the most magnificent deaths and suffering have come from people who cannot tolerate a different view of someone else. No way they can live together. The suspicion, the hate, and so forth. I hope the day never comes that those in this country try to make this a theocracy of some sort. And we have those people, even in our local elections here in Loudoun County and across the country right now before it's November 7th here. I assume it's the same elsewhere. And we seem to have no ability to avoid death and destruction. We embrace it because domination is the rule for religions that always espouse equality and unity and affection, and then they do exactly the opposite. Of all the religions and of all the governments, if they could actually adhere to the teachings in their scripture and their laws and their constitutions, we would be a sight better across the small blue planet. But we can't do that. We are a violent people. My dad, when I was young, and young enough to understand him about these matters, we talk about the war. And he'd been in the Army Air Force during World War II, and he didn't see action and so forth. But you sure get a lot of time to think about it because his brother was in Italy and taken a prisoner of war by the Germans. And so we talked about it, and he said that humans don't seem to understand peace. And we don't understand how we're overpopulating the planet. Believe me, my dad was, I don't know if he was moderate or conservative or whatever. He had no use for politicians. But he said wars, that's how we handle too many people on the planet. Wars, disease. Because people can't choose to manage these things themselves. Don't understand it. Don't care to understand it. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Well, there's a lot of evidence that people really don't think. They do. They feel. They act. They hate. The emotions are stronger than the rational portion of their being. And so, when you cheer, ages ago I did a performance of a great essay by Mark Twain called The War Prayer. And he has a guest in a long robe with blonde hair come from the back of a church and say he'd like to address the flock who are gathered there as they're about to go into war, and to say the war prayer, which is, you've talked about what we're going to do and how God is going to help us and how we're going to succeed. Well, what about those that you're wishing upon them death, suffering, alienation, all of these terrible things? So when you pray for success for our fighting men and women. You're praying for the death of others. And the conclusion of Mark Twain was that the last thing they said was that, well, the people just thought the person who spoke was out of his mind. Well, if you judge people by how they act, plainly peace is not as exciting as war and death and destruction and hurt and pain and alienation and homelessness and starvation and poverty and the death of children and older people and young men. Future is lost. For what? Where is God? Who is God? Where is Yahweh? What constellation of supernatural order is your choice? And is it worth dying for? So, excuse my meanderings, but it's very hard to wrap one's mind around such hurt and pain and destruction when there's so many other things that make so much more sense to devote your time and effort for. So from the cathedral of trees turning before us, I say goodbye until tomorrow. Bye-bye.